Commander Elias Hart stood at the edge of the landing platform, his boots making soft thuds against the metallic surface that glowed faintly under Aurelia's twin suns. He squinted against the bright light reflecting off the crystalline towers that stretched like glass fingers toward the sky. He had read every report about Aurelia, but seeing it with his own eyes was entirely different. The planet shimmered, as if it were alive, and the air seemed to hum with an energy that made his skin tingle. Elias adjusted the strap of his communicator and took a deep breath. This was not just another mission. This was history. Humans had never truly met the Zytharians face-to-face before. Their civilization was ancient, their knowledge legendary, and their telepathic abilities were something humans had only observed from a distance. Some considered the Zytharians nearly godlike. Elias wasn't sure what he believed, but he knew that the next few days could change everything. A soft vibration ran through the platform, and the hum of the city below quieted, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then she appeared. Queen Solara descended from above, her movement graceful and fluid, like water flowing through the air. Her form glimmered in the sunlight, translucent at the edges, yet solid enough to command attention. Elias could not stop staring. Her eyes were vast, pools of iridescent light that seemed to see into the deepest corners of his mind. There was a calmness to her presence, but also a quiet power that made his pulse quicken. The humans had prepared him for a formal greeting, expecting a ceremony of politeness, gestures, and words. But the moment Solara focused on him, a voice spoke in his mind. Clear, gentle, profound.
I would be honored to carry your child, human.
Elias froze. His heart stuttered. He blinked, thinking he had misunderstood. The queen had not spoken aloud. This was telepathy, the direct sharing of thought. And yet, the meaning. It was so real, so intimate, that it felt as if his chest would split. He swallowed hard. I don't understand, he whispered, not sure if he spoke aloud or if the sound carried in his own mind. Her thought came again, patient and unwavering. Bita seado do fu wa ba ke. It is not what you fear. It is an honor in our way, a joining of trust and life, not necessarily a child in the way you know, but a gift, a connection, a shared future. Elias's legs felt weak. He had trained for negotiations, for crises, even for battle situations, but he had never trained for this, for the raw vulnerability of being understood completely by a mind that was not human. He wanted to nod, to say something wise, but words failed him. The Queen's vessel slowed and hovered a few meters above the platform. It was not like any ship he had ever seen. It flowed like liquid crystal, its shape shifting subtly, refracting the sunlight into patterns that danced across his uniform. The human's description of Zytharian technology always seemed distant and clinical. Seeing it now, alive and organic, made him realize that the Zytharians lived in a world where the line between life and technology did not exist. "You have come far," Solara said, her voice now softly audible to him, though still carrying that deep resonance of thought.
"And yet your journey is only beginning."
"I am honored to be here, Your Majesty," he said. "I hope I can serve your people as an ally." She tilted her head slightly, a gesture so subtle yet so full of meaning that he felt he was seeing 1,000 years of history in one movement.
Ow!
Yes, but perhaps more. You see, the bond I offer is rare, even among my kind. It is not given lightly. It is an invitation to share understanding, to merge not bodies, but intentions, hopes, and visions. Elias felt the weight of her words. To share intentions, hopes, and visions with someone, a being from another species, was more than diplomacy. It was intimacy on a level he had never imagined. He looked down at his hands. Well, humans always counted their strength in what they could do, what they could create, what they could fight. But here, in the light of Aurelia and in the presence of this queen, he realized that strength could also be measured by trust, by the courage to open oneself completely to another. Solara extended a hand, delicate and radiant, yet commanding in its own way.
Elias hesitated only for a moment before taking it.
The moment their hands met, a surge of sensation traveled through him. He felt memories, not just of his own life, but hints of hers, visions of crystal cities, gardens floating in the air, beings who could think in colors rather than words. He saw moments of triumph and sorrow, curiosity and patience, and something else, a longing for connection that transcended time. He gasped and pulled back slightly, overwhelmed. I can feel so much, he said. And you shall feel more, if you choose, she replied. Not just of me, but of us, of the possibility that two species, so different, can learn from each other, can create together, can honor life in ways neither could alone. Elias's mind raced. He had come to Aurelia expecting a diplomatic mission. He expected cautious greetings, formal statements, and polite gestures. What he had found was far beyond that. It was a challenge to everything he knew about himself, about humanity, and about the universe. The platform beneath them shimmered again, and the wind shifted. A subtle sound, like chimes in the distance, carried across the air. Elias realized that Aurelia itself was alive in ways he could barely comprehend. Each crystal tower seemed to pulse with awareness. Even the sky above was not just empty space. It was a canvas of energy, shifting and alive.
You do not need to answer now.
The choice is yours, but know this, the bond I offer is not a fleeting fancy. It is a commitment to see, truly see, one another. To honor life beyond what is easy or known. It is a gift that can change both our worlds. Elias nodded slowly, his mind trying to process everything at once.
I
will consider it, he said. Truthfully, he did not need to consider. Already his heart knew something his mind could not yet grasp. But words were necessary. They were human. Solara smiled, and it was as if the sun itself brightened. Then we begin, she said. Her vessel began to descend, landing gently upon the crystalline platform. As it touched the ground, the surface beneath them rippled like water. Come, she invited. There is much to show you, and much for you to understand, before the bond can be complete. Elias followed, his senses alert to every detail. The city around him was breathtaking. Bridges made of translucent crystal arched over rivers that glowed faintly with bioluminescent life. Gardens floated in the air, suspended by forces he could not name, yet somehow familiar in their harmony. Zitharian beings moved gracefully among the towers, their forms shimmering like sunlight on water. Each glance seemed to carry a greeting, a welcome, a silent acknowledgement of his presence. As they walked, Elias felt the queen's gaze upon him. It was not merely observing, it was learning, understanding, and sharing. He realized that every step he took was being mirrored in her mind, and he could feel her thoughts reaching out to touch his. It was not invasive. It was a connection, gentle and deliberate. He thought of Earth, of the bustling cities and crowded streets, the noise and chaos.
And he realized how narrow his perspective had been.
Here, on Aurelia, he felt a sense of calm, a sense of purpose that transcended his training, his rank, and even his own ambitions. He felt like a small piece of a larger, incomprehensible puzzle. They arrived at a plaza at the heart of the city. In the center stood a massive crystal tree, its branches arching high into the sky, each leaf shimmering with a rainbow of colors. This is the tree of understanding, Solara said. All Zitharians come here to share thoughts and learn from one another. Soon, you will stand beneath it as well, and your mind will reach out as mine has reached to you." Elias looked up at the tree, awestruck. He could feel its hum, a vibration that resonated deep within his chest. "What is incredible?" he said. Words seemed so small against the enormity of it. Solara's voice, gentle yet steady, filled his mind. Incredible, yes, but it is not the sight that matters. It is the experience. To see another being, another life, not with your eyes alone, but with your mind and heart. That is what the bond offers. Elias took a deep breath, his pulse slowing as he tried to absorb everything. The hum of the tree, the shimmering towers, the floating gardens. It was more than beauty. It was understanding, connection, and possibility. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of what humanity could become. Not just explorers, not just warriors, not just thinkers, but beings capable of understanding life in ways that transcended their own kind. And in that moment, he realized that the Queen's words, so startling at first, held a promise far greater than he had ever imagined. I think I am ready," he whispered, though he was not entirely sure what he meant. Solara's smile widened, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest. "Then we begin," she said, and with that, the journey that would forever change him, and perhaps all of humanity, truly began. Elias followed Solara through the shimmering corridors of the Crystal Palace, his eyes wide at the beauty surrounding him. Every surface reflected light in patterns that danced across the walls, and the air seemed to hum with energy. It was as if the entire structure were alive, responding to their presence. He felt a strange thrill in his chest. Part awe, part fear, part something else he could not name. Solara's hand remained lightly on his arm, guiding him with gentle precision.
"We move carefully here," she said, her voice both heard and felt in his mind.
The palace itself is aware of those who enter. It judges intentions, senses honesty, and embraces those who are ready to understand. Elias nodded, though he wasn't sure he fully understood. He had expected diplomacy, formal talks, and polite ceremonies, but what he had encountered so far was far beyond that. The Queen's words from their first meeting still echoed in his mind, filling him with warmth and anxiety at the same time. They entered a large chamber at the heart of the palace. Its ceiling was impossibly high, and crystal spires hung from it like stalactites, glowing softly in the ambient light. In the center of the room was a circular platform, surrounded by intricate patterns etched into the crystal floor. "This is where we begin the bond," Solara said, stepping to the center. "It is a ritual of trust and connection. You will see my mind, and I will see yours. Not just your thoughts, but your emotions, your hopes, your fears, and you will feel mine in return." Elias swallowed hard. He had read about the Zetherian bonding rituals and reports, but reading about it was nothing like experiencing it firsthand. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, his boots making soft clicks on the crystal surface. Solara extended her hands, and he mirrored her movements. As their fingertips touched, a warmth spread through his body, not physical heat, but a deep, comforting sensation. It was as if their very souls were brushing against one another, tentative and careful at first, then more assured. "You may close your eyes," Solara said. "It will help you focus." Elias obeyed, and instantly the world around him faded. The palace, the city, the sunlight. They all disappeared, replaced by a vast space of shimmering light and color. He felt weightless, as if floating in a gentle current, and then he felt her mind reach out to his, not with pressure or force, but like a river flowing into a stream, natural and inevitable. At first, it was overwhelming. Thoughts, images, and emotions flashed through him. He saw glimpses of Solara's life, her earliest memories of learning from the elders, her first moments of understanding the world around her, the centuries she had spent observing the stars and guiding her people. There was joy, sorrow, curiosity, and a deep, patient wisdom. Elias gasped.
It's
It's like seeing a lifetime in moments, he whispered in his mind. Yes, Solara replied, and you will see more. You will understand that our lives are not measured only in days, but in experiences, in connections, in what we choose to give and receive. Then, unexpectedly, she reached into his own mind. Elias felt a gentle touch, and his memories began to flow outward, not forcefully, but willingly, as if he were offering them freely. He saw his childhood home, the small apartment in a bustling city, the quiet evenings spent staring at the stars, the excitement of his first mission in space. He felt the fear he had once carried when leaving his family, the thrill of discovery and the loneliness of being far from everything familiar. Solara absorbed it all, not judging, only understanding. And with that understanding came a profound sense of acceptance. Elias realized that he had never felt so completely seen, so completely known by another being. "You are brave," she said softly, sending the thought directly to his heart, not because of your accomplishments, but because you are willing to open yourself, to trust, to be vulnerable. He felt a warmth spread through him, a comforting presence that eased the nervous tension he hadn't even realized he was carrying. I don't know what to say, he admitted. I've never
felt like this with anyone. You do not need words here, Solara replied.
Words are only shadows of thought. Here, we share the essence of who we are.
That is enough. The colors around him shifted, and he realized he was seeing something new, a vision of Aurelia itself.
The planet glowed beneath them, its rivers, forests, and cities shining with vibrant energy.
And among the light he saw possibilities, humans and Zytharians working together, sharing knowledge, creating wonders neither could imagine alone.
He felt tears prick his eyes. It was overwhelming, not in fear or sadness, but in sheer beauty. He had come to this planet expecting diplomacy, perhaps friendship. He had not expected a vision of hope that stretched across worlds. "Do you understand now?" Solara asked, her presence a gentle current in his mind. "The bond is more than a connection between two individuals. It is a bridge between our peoples. It is a way to honor life, to learn, to grow together." Elias nodded, though his eyes were closed. I think I understand," he whispered. It's incredible, more than I could have imagined." She smiled, and he felt the warmth deepen.
"And there is more to see. This is only the beginning."
"The bond will grow, as will your understanding of what is possible. Together, we will explore not just each other, but what our lives can become when we work in harmony." Time seemed to stretch. Hours, minutes, and moments blended together as they shared memories, thoughts, and visions. Elias learned about Zytharian history, their philosophies, their joys and sorrows. He felt her emotions as vividly as his own, a tapestry of experience that made him feel connected to something far greater than himself. At the same time, he offered his own experiences, his own fears and hopes. He showed her the Earth he had left behind, the humans who worked tirelessly to understand the universe, the dreams that drove them to explore the stars. He shared the quiet moments of his life, the moments of wonder, and the moments of doubt, and she accepted it all without judgment, without hesitation, only with understanding and respect. When the visions finally faded, Elias opened his eyes. The palace was back, the crystal towers gleaming around him, the air humming softly. Lighter, braver, connected in a way that words could not capture. "You are ready," Solara said, her hand still resting lightly on his arm. "The bond is established. You have glimpsed the depth of what we can share, and you have shown your willingness to give as well as receive." Elias felt his chest swell with a mixture of pride and humility. "I thank you," he said. "I don't think I've ever felt so alive." "Oh, alive, yes, and aware." "The true journey begins now. Commander, you have seen what is possible between us, but you will need to carry this understanding back to your people. You will need to teach them what it means to trust, to honor life, and to see beyond fear and difference. Elias nodded. He realized the weight of her words. This bond was not just for him. It was a bridge between species, a message that humans and Zetharians could work together, respect one another, and create something new. "I will do my best," he said. "I promise." Solara's smile widened, and for a moment, the light of the Crystal Palace seemed to shine brighter. "I know you will. And know this, Elias Hart. The bond we share is a seed. It will grow, nurtured by understanding, respect, and care. One day it may bear fruit that neither of our worlds can yet imagine." Elias felt a thrill of anticipation. The Queen's words were not just metaphorical, they were a promise, a challenge, and an invitation. He had glimpsed the future, and it was bright, full of possibilities, and entirely unknown. As they walked together through the palace gardens, floating petals of iridescent flowers drifting around them, Elias realized something he had not expected. He felt a deep sense of peace, not because everything was certain, but because he knew he was part of something greater than himself, something alive, vibrant, and full of promise. And somewhere deep inside he felt a small, steady heartbeat of hope, a heartbeat that mirrored the Queen's own. The journey had only begun, but already, Elias Hart knew that his life, and perhaps the life of humanity itself, would never be the same again. The morning light spilled across the crystal city of Aurelia, turning every tower and spire into a prism of shimmering colors. Elias Hart walked beside Queen Solara through the floating gardens, the petals of glowing flowers drifting lazily in the soft breeze. Today was important. Today he would meet more of her people and begin the work of showing humans that trust and understanding could bridge even the widest gaps between worlds. Solara moved with her usual grace, her presence calm yet commanding.
"Your people will observe the city today," she said.
"They will learn not through words alone, but through experience, and you will guide them as the bond between us now extends outward."
Elias nodded, feeling a mix of pride and responsibility.
He had expected to be an observer, to take notes, perhaps even to advise on protocols, but now he realized his role was far more profound. He was a bridge, not just between two species, but between two ways of thinking, two civilizations that could learn from each other in ways no one had ever imagined. The humans arrived shortly after, stepping carefully onto the landing platform. Their uniforms glinted in the Aurelia sun, and their expressions ranged from awe to skepticism. Elias greeted them, keeping his voice steady despite the excitement in his chest. "Welcome to Aurelia," he said. "You are about to see a civilization unlike anything you've imagined. But remember, observation alone is not enough. We are here to learn, to understand, and to respect." The human delegation followed him through the city. Solara walked beside him, her presence a calming influence on both humans and Zetharians. As they moved, Elias pointed out the floating gardens, the crystal towers, and the rivers that glowed with bioluminescent light. The humans whispered to each other, unable to hide their amazement, while the Zetharians simply observed with serene smiles. At the center of the city, they arrived, at the Library of Consciousness. The building was unlike any library on Earth. It was a vast dome of crystal, its walls pulsing gently with light. Inside, knowledge was shared not through books, but through connection. Beings sat or floated in meditation, their minds linked to the library's core, drawing wisdom from centuries of thought. Solara led Elias to the center of the dome.
"Here, your people will see that knowledge is more than information," she said.
It is understanding, shared, and respected. And you, Elias, will guide them to learn what it means to share without taking, to give without losing oneself.
"I will do my best," he said.
He felt the weight of her words and the eyes of the humans on him. waiting for guidance.
He approached one of the humans, a young scientist named Mara, and placed a hand gently on her shoulder.
Close your eyes, he instructed. Focus on what you feel, not just what you see. Elias reached out with his mind, just enough to create a gentle connection. She gasped as visions flooded her mind. Floating gardens, rivers of light, beings who communicated without speech. She felt emotions she had never experienced: calm, awe, and the quiet thrill of understanding something new. When she opened her eyes, tears shimmered at the corners.
"It's beautiful," she whispered. "I've never felt anything like it."
This is only the beginning. Understanding requires more than observation.
It requires connection, and connection requires trust. The humans moved through the city, guided by Elias, while Solara observed with quiet pride. She could see the bond forming not only between her and Elias, but also between humans and Zetharians. It was subtle at first, a shared glance here, a mirrored movement there, but it grew with every step, every interaction. As they exited the Library of Consciousness, Solara led them to a plaza where a small anomaly had been detected in Aurelia's orbit. It was not dangerous, not in the immediate sense, but it posed a long-term challenge that required cooperation to study and understand. This anomaly, Solara explained, is part of the natural flow of the universe. But we wish to learn from your species, as you may have methods and perspectives that differ from ours. Together, we can understand it fully.
Elias felt a thrill of purpose. "Then let's begin," he said.
He gestured to the human scientists, who immediately set up their equipment, their minds alive with curiosity and determination. For hours, humans and Zetharians worked side by side. The humans brought analytical tools, sensors and methods for measuring the anomaly, while the Zetharians contributed their telepathic insights, their ability to sense energy flows and patterns invisible to instruments. Elias moved among them, helping where he could, translating between cultures and methods, ensuring that every observation and discovery was shared and understood. He marveled at the way the two species complemented each other. Humans were methodical and inventive, thinking in linear ways that uncovered hidden patterns. Zetharians thought in webs and flows, seeing the connections that humans could not perceive. Together they formed a whole greater than the sum of their parts. As the day wore on, noticed a subtle change in the humans. They were no longer mere observers. They were participants. Their skepticism had been replaced with curiosity, their doubt with awe. And all the while, the Zetharians responded in kind, patient, encouraging, and open to learning from the humans as well. By the time the anomaly had been mapped and studied, Elias felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not just in solving the problem, but in witnessing the growth of trust and collaboration between two very different species. Solara approached him as the last measurements were recorded.
"You have done well," she said, her voice carrying both warmth and admiration. "You have guided your people with patience and understanding.
You have shown them the value of connection, of respect, of shared purpose." Elias felt a surge of pride, but also humility. "I couldn't have done it alone," he replied. "Neither could my people."
We are learning from you, as much as you from us.
That is the essence of unity, to give and to receive, to share and to honor, without taking more than what is offered freely. You have begun to understand what the bond truly means. As the sun began to set over Aurelia, Elias stood beside Solara, watching the city glow in the soft twilight. He thought of the journey that had brought him here, of the bond they had formed, and of the possibilities that lay ahead. He felt a deep sense of purpose, a quiet joy that came from knowing he was part of something greater than himself, something that could change not only his world, but the entire galaxy.
"Elias," Solara said softly, her hand brushing his, "there is still much to learn, much to share."
But today, you have taken a step that few humans could even imagine. You have shown courage, wisdom, and an open heart. That is the true honor. Elias felt a warmth spread through him, a feeling of deep connection and fulfillment. "Thank you," he said. "I will continue to learn. I will continue to grow, and I will carry this bond forward with respect and care." Solara's gaze softened, and she nodded. "That is all I ask. The future will be brighter because of those who are willing to see beyond fear, beyond difference, and into the potential that exists when we trust each other."
You are one of those beings? Elias Hart. The city shimmered around them as night fell, the lights of Aurelia reflecting in the rivers and floating gardens.
Elias knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities to deepen the bond he shared with Solara and her people. But tonight he allowed himself a moment of peace, of reflection, and of gratitude. He had arrived as an ambassador, a human observer, but he was leaving that role behind, stepping into something far greater, a participant in the unity of worlds, a bridge between civilizations, and a witness to the beauty of life shared in understanding and respect. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a small, steady pulse of anticipation. The bond they had begun to forge was only the beginning, and the possibilities were limitless. Elias looked at Solara, and for the first time he truly understood the depth of her words from that first encounter. "I would be honored to carry your child." Human. It was not a literal promise, but a metaphor for trust, respect, and shared destiny. And in that understanding, his heart swelled with awe, hope, and the certainty that together they could create something extraordinary. The night air carried a gentle hum, the city's crystal towers glowing softly as if in quiet celebration. Elias closed his eyes and let himself feel the bond, the connection, and the possibilities that lay ahead. For the first time in his life, he felt fully alive, fully present, and fully connected to a future that was brighter than anything he had ever imagined. The morning sun rose over Aurelia, casting a golden glow on the crystal towers and the floating gardens. Commander Elias Hart stood at the palace balcony, gazing at the city below. The air was alive with the soft hum of energy that ran through every street, every building, every living crystal. Today was not just another day. It was the day the humans and the Therians would celebrate the bond they had begun to form, a bond that promised a future of unity, learning, and hope. Queen Solara appeared beside him, her presence calm and radiant as always. "Are you ready for today?" she asked, her voice carrying in his mind as clearly as if she had spoken aloud. Elias nodded. "I think I am. But I realize now that readiness is not about knowing everything. It's about being willing to embrace what comes and to learn from it."
Exactly. That is the essence of what we do together.
You have learned, and now you will teach, not with words alone, but with example. Your people will follow your lead, just as our people have watched and learned from yours.
The humans arrived soon after, stepping onto the platform with a mixture of excitement and nervousness.
Elias greeted them warmly.
"Today you will not just observe Aurelia," he said.
You will participate in a celebration of understanding, trust, and shared purpose. Open your minds and hearts, and you will see more than you ever imagined.
Solara guided them through the city, showing them the gardens where floating flowers shifted colors with emotion, the rivers of light that wound between the crystal towers, and the plazas where Zetherians and humans had already begun to mingle in small groups. Everywhere Elias looked, he saw curiosity, wonder, and respect. Humans were learning from Zetherians, and Zetherians were learning from humans. It was a slow, careful dance of understanding, but it was real, and it was beautiful.
In the central plaza, the crowd gathered around a massive crystal tree, the Tree of Unity, as it was called.
Its branches arched high into the sky, and its leaves shimmered in every color imaginable. Solara stood beneath it, raising her hands in a gesture of welcome. Elias stepped beside her, feeling the pulse of energy that radiated from the tree. It was gentle, yet powerful, as if the tree itself were alive and aware of every being present.
Today, Solara said, her voice clear in every mind present,
We celebrate the bond between our species, not a bond of dominance or fear, but of trust, respect, and shared destiny.
Today, we honor life in all its forms, and the potential that exists when we choose to see one another clearly, without prejudice, without hesitation. Elias felt a wave of emotion rise in him. He had spent his life preparing for missions, for diplomacy, for understanding alien cultures. But this was something different. This was not about knowledge alone. It was about heart, about connection, about the quiet courage to open oneself to another. The humans were invited to place their hands on the tree, just as Elias had done with Solara during their first bonding ritual. One by one, they stepped forward, closing their eyes and reaching out. At first, there was hesitation. Then, slowly, they began to feel what he had felt. A connection not of touch or technology, but of mind and spirit. They saw visions of Zytherian life, the beauty of their cities, the care they put into everything they did. They felt the patience, the wisdom, and the gentle curiosity that defined the Zytherians. And just as importantly, the Zytherians saw the humans, not as strangers, not as intruders, not as inferior, but as equals capable of learning, sharing, and honoring life. Elias watched the reactions, feeling pride and awe. The bond they had begun was spreading, not magically, but through willingness, respect, and understanding. He saw human scientists laughing with Zytherian engineers as they shared ideas. He saw children from both species playing together in the gardens, their laughter bright and free. He saw elders observing with calm smiles, knowing that this moment would be remembered for generations. After the initial moments of connection, Solara gestured for Elias to step forward. "You have been our guide," she said, "and your presence has reminded us that courage is not measured in strength alone, but in willingness to open one's mind and heart. Today you stand as an example to both your people and ours." Elias felt his heart swell. He looked out at the humans gathered, their faces reflecting wonder and understanding. He looked at the Zytherians, serene and patient, their eyes filled with the quiet pride of those who had opened themselves to another species. And he realized that this was the moment he had been preparing for all his life. Not a mission, not a battle, not a discovery, but a shared recognition of what was possible when beings chose trust over fear, respect over suspicion, and cooperation over isolation. He spoke, his voice steady and clear. "Today we honor not just the bond between two species, but the bond between all life. We are different, yes, but in our differences we find strength. In our curiosity we find connection. And in our willingness to understand, we find hope." A hush fell over the plaza. The floating leaves of the crystal tree shimmered, reflecting the faces of all present. It was as if the universe itself were acknowledging the moment, the choice to embrace unity over division. Solara reached out and touched Elias's arm lightly. "The bond you share with me, and now with our people, is a seed," she said. "A seed that will grow into something far greater than either of our species could create alone. Nurture it, protect it, and allow it to flourish." Elias nodded, feeling the weight and the joy of her words.
"I will," he said. "I promise." Throughout the day, humans and Zytherians shared meals, exchanged knowledge, and explored each other's arts and sciences.
There was no hierarchy here, no superiority, only mutual respect. They laughed together, debated ideas, and marveled at the wonders of a world they had once only imagined. Elias observed quietly, feeling a sense of peace he had never known. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold, pink, and violet, Solara led Elias to a quiet garden. The floating petals glowed softly in the dim light, and the gentle hum of the city seemed to wrap around them like a blanket. "You have done more than I could have asked," she said softly, her voice carrying both warmth and admiration. "You have guided your people, shared your wisdom, and shown that trust and respect can create life where none existed before." Elias smiled, feeling a calm joy. "It is not just me," he said.
"It is all of us, humans and Zytharians."
"Together we have begun something that is bigger than any one person. Something lasting." Solara nodded, her eyes reflecting the colors of the setting sun. "Yes, and that is why I spoke the words I did when we first met. I would be honored to carry your child, human." It was never about biology alone. It was about life, potential, and the future we could create together. You understood it, even when it frightened you. And for that, my respect and honor for you are boundless.
Elias felt his chest tighten.
He had never imagined feeling such profound emotion. He thought of Earth, of humanity's endless struggles and hopes, and realized that the bond he shared with Solara was more than personal. It was universal. It was a promise that life, understanding, and respect could flourish anywhere, even across the stars.
"Thank you," he whispered.
"I will carry it always."
Solara's smile deepened and she placed her hand lightly on his. "Then we will continue," she said.
Together, not as two species divided, but as partners in understanding, explorers of life, and guardians of what we create. As night fell, the city of Aurelia glowed softly under the twin moons. Elias looked out over the crystal towers and floating gardens, feeling the hum of life beneath his feet and around him. He realized that this moment, this day, was only the beginning. The bond would grow, nurtured by trust, respect, and the courage to see beyond difference. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a steady, quiet heartbeat, a heartbeat that mirrored the Queen's own. It was not the heartbeat of one person or even one species, but of a shared future, alive with possibility, hope, and the promise of unity. Elias took a deep breath, feeling peace, joy, and anticipation all at once. The journey had begun months ago, but today it had blossomed into something extraordinary. He had come to Aurelia as a visitor, an observer, a human ambassador, but he would leave as something more, a participant in a new era, a witness to the beauty of understanding, and a guardian of the bond that could change the galaxy. And as he stood there, hand in hand with Queen Solara, he knew one simple truth. Life, when shared in trust and respect, was the most powerful force in the universe.